This is the first of a long series of podcasts on the topic of governance. In this thread, I want to interpret the term governance in a very general way. It seems to me that people often restrict the meaning, unhelpfully and incorrectly, as referring primarily to the relationship between the board of trustees of governors and the executive, that is, those responsible for the day-to-day running of the institution. For sure, that relationship is very important, and it is indeed a matter of governance. But governance means an awful lot more than that. We'll cover the relationship between the board and the executive in a future podcast, but I don't want to start there. I think it will be a good idea to have some kind of idea of what is meant by governance by looking at a few definitions. But first, I want to pose this question. How complex are institutions of higher education in relationship to other mission-driven enterprises? And I think we can get a handle on this by looking at typical mission statements. One thing stands out immediately: higher education institutions are not single-minded. We're not manufacturers of just soft drinks or paper clips, because in such cases the mission is usually quite straightforward and has a single dimension, roughly the desire to be a market leader in making and selling something and satisfying customer demands. But the mission of a higher education institution is not like this. Always it'll be involving providing a quality education to some segment of students, in some possibly restricted area. And it will most often also include ambitions to be active and successful in scholarship and research, and to contribute to the community, as narrowly or broadly understood. And that multi-dimensional mission is much rarer in other kinds of enterprise. And for higher education institutions, it leads to two different challenging issues. And I think it's worth starting by taking a look at those. There are opportunities for synergy. Education can be strengthened, for example, through the results of research. There's a whole topic area of the research-teaching nexus, which we will look at in a future topic thread, which sets out just how education can be made more interesting, successful, challenging, and stronger by building in research methods, research approaches, results, and practices in various ways. And similarly, education can be strengthened through community engagement. Such engagement can be harnessed to provide internships and placements, and also to bring the student experience closer to the real world, whether that's commercial or cultural, for-profit, developmental, or through service. It also helps enormously to develop students' soft skills. Again, that's a topic that we'll look at in detail in another thread in future. But secondly, in contrast to the opportunities, there are also threats and tensions associated with multidimensional missions. For example, faculty members have only limited time to devote to their professional duties. How does an institution meet its mission to deliver excellent education and excellent research when the time available for one will impact necessarily on the other? And the same is true for other resources, apart from human resources. There are financial resources. How much should we invest in research or community service? Because every dollar invested in one area can also be spent in another. So associated with every positive decision to devote resource in some area is an opportunity cost. What's not done that could have been beneficial if invested elsewhere. And that then is the backdrop against which our higher education institutions have to be governed. And some of the particular challenges of governance are linked to the opportunities and the tensions that are involved in a multi-dimensional mission. Well, in the next post, we'll take a look at some definitions of governance and we'll discuss their relevance to us in higher education institutions.